And we're back again. Thank you so much to Joe and Zoe for those two first games. I am here with Matt now to take over for these next two games. Score currently is 1-1. So, yeah, it's going to remain an interesting finals here. Really looking forward to set number 3. Matt, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Great couple of sets to start off with. And very back and forth. Like you said, 1-1 at the moment. So, caught in a deadlock. Everything to play for still. And we were expecting, I think everyone was expecting this finals to be very close. And so far, we've seen that that is the case. It's very hard to call because there's just such a strong group of players on both sides. Like if you look at the individual standings for the World Cup this year, the top is just littered with Australia and Spain. It's just all of the standout players from this tournament still yet to play. So it's very difficult to call, and it's looking like it's going to be a very exciting set of matches coming up.
Yeah, I know at the beginning of World Cup, I was really following Australia's standings because they were constantly like 8-0 in sets and also 2-0 in games, like all across the board. It was just absolute craziness. So honestly, can't say I'm too surprised to see that they have made it all the way to finals. But yeah, Spain is one of the toughest opponents that they could have faced here as well. So yeah, it's not going to be easy for them.
Yeah, well, both teams have had to come through a gauntlet of tough opponents already so far, so they're not unfamiliar with the concept of taking on the big names. But speaking of the names that we've got, do we have the team sheets ready to go? Let's have a quick look at our players.
Yes. It is going to be Javier Corrales versus Nicolas Kahn, and here we got an Ogerpon, the Wellspring Mask variant, a Goldengo, Incineroar, Landorus, Tornadus, and not the first Regidrago we've had on stream today, I think I saw.
And I believe it won't be the last Regidrago that we see on this match, but that's spoilers ahead. This team is very interesting. We've seen Regidrago next to a Steel type as a very standard composition on the Iron Crown stuff. We see that all the time. This time, though, Javier opting for Goldengo as the Steel type of choice, threatening those big spread damage Make It Rains. And the combo of Regidrago and a Steel type is generally powerful because of the ability for Regidrago to force things like Terra Fairy out of opposing Pokemon. And obviously Fairy types will just hard wall Regidrago. Its Earth power not doing that much damage, so having a powerful Steel type next to it to be able to click that big Make It Rain button, threaten the Fairy types, is a very, very nice offensive combo. The problem is getting it into position, because the two Pokemon, not that fast, but that is what something like this Tornadus is here for. Incineroar also providing nice support with Fake Out. You've got support from Ogerpon with Follow Me as well to try and get this Goldengo and this Regidrago into those positions that they want to be in.
Yeah, and I really like also just having the Assault Vest on that Incineroar there to make sure it's extra tanky. You probably don't really need something like a Parting Shot to weaken opposing Mons if all you're gonna do is just, give them a Dragon Energy and hopefully just take them out. So, maybe just a personal thing of mine that I really like Assault Vest Incineroar. I just love how tanky that is. And I also really like the Landorus here, synergizes now with the Rain Dance of the Tornadus. You get to hit Steel types very well as well. Of course, the Regidrago also has access to Earth power, but you'd rather go for Dragon Energy if you get the chance to do so.
Yeah, I think Assault Vest Incineroar, like you said, makes a lot of sense here. Regidrago and Goldengo. The game plan is, and Landorus as well, the game plan is take KOs, ask questions later, right? So Incineroar doesn't need Parting Shots, it just needs to get off the field and get something else in, such as a Tornadus or an Ogerpon, to get Tailwind, to get Follow Me, or just to get Goldengo or Regidrago in next to each other to threaten that big combo of Steel and Dragon. So, a very scary looking composition, a very different take on the Regidrago teams that we normally see, but we have got a very standard take on Regidrago coming up on Nicolas Cahn's team. Nicolas Cahn, a lot of recent results, very strong Brisbane Regional Champion in 2024, rocking a team that we have seen a number of times now. I think we've seen this twice already before this game on stream. It's a very, once already on stream. But we've seen it a lot throughout this World Cup, this composition of Ogerpon, Indeedee, Iron Crown, Urshifu, Tornadus, and Regidrago. Again, similar idea with the Regidrago next to a powerful Steel type in Iron Crown, threatening Tachyon Cutter into any fairy types that want to sit in front of Regidrago. Same concept with the Tailwind on Tornadus, but the other 3 Pokemon here, Ogerpon, again, redirection on an Ogerpon, double redirection though with Indeedee and priority blocking next to this Choice Scarf Urshifu.
Yeah, I think the Ogerpon Wellspring is going to look quite nice against a lot of the special attackers here, if it decides to go for something like a Terra Water especially. And Nicholas's Regidrago is the Terra Steel variation, whereas the other one is Terra Fairy, so it can, technically make itself immune to opposing dragon energies. But then you have this Iron Crown here that's threatening those Tachyon Cutters. But then again, there's also the Ogerpon Wellspring that could redirect those. And something like an Expanding Force is gonna also, hit opposing Regidrago pretty well. So I think both players really have to make sure they get in a good board position here that favors them over their opponent. Because, yeah, there's a lot that can happen here.
Yeah, this is absolutely going to be a game of positioning. It's getting the right offensive threats in at the right time in front of the right opposing Pokemon. So, let's jump into our game 1 and see which of our players can get the better of this positioning.
Yeah, and it is going to be that Iron Crown and Indeedee lead versus Tornadus and Landorus. So, 2 very fitting duos on the field.
2 classic leads here from our 2 players. We've got double Genies. I remember the days where double Genies was Thundurus and Landorus Therian, but this is the modern double Genies up against the Indeedee and Iron Crown. Worth noting, the Landorus here does have access to Sandsear Storm, so it does have a way of potentially hitting Iron Crown for super effective damage around a Follow Me from Indeedee, which makes this lead a lot less scary than it could otherwise be for Javier. Not too worried about that redirection. It may just be something as simple as a Bleakwind Storm and a Sandsear Storm. Going for double spread moves on these 2 Genies, not needing speed control just yet. Landorus and Tornadus most likely going to be outspeeding the Iron Crown on Nicholas's side. And this Indeedee, like we said, not threatening too much thanks to the amount of spread damage that Javier has available to him.
And Nicholas is going to go straight for that Terra Water to get rid of that ground weakness. So, hopefully stay on the field a little bit longer. Of course, something like a Bleakwind Storm can always miss, as can a Sandsear Storm, and it is going to miss that Indeedee, but it's going to hit the important target, which is that Iron Crown here. And the Bleakwind Storm is going to connect with both targets, and the Iron Crown does remain on the field here and gets to go for an Expanding Force. And not quite take out either of these Pokemon, but now the Trick Room being set up from Indeedee means that this Iron Crown is going to be outspeeding both of these Genies and ready to go for another Expanding Force.
Yeah, it's a tough situation for Javier potentially, but there is always the threat of an Incineroar in the back to come in on an Expanding Force, and with the Trick Room up, that will most likely be slower than Iron Crown, but Iron Crown is rocking that Water-type Terra Blast to threaten Incineroar as well. This is the kind of situation where that Assault Vest may end up being incredibly useful for Javier, being able to take most likely one of these Water-type Terra Blasts. But we are just going to see defensive plays from Javier to start this turn off.
Yeah, a Protect here from the Landorus as the Tornadus decides to set up this Rain Dance here. Might as well set up that Rain before it doesn't do anything at all and goes down to this next, or actually does not quite go down to the Dazzling Gleam from the Indeedee. He lives with 1 HP, but is going to go down to another Expanding Force here from this Iron Crown. So Javier does get a free switch in here, but there are still 3 rounds of Trick Room that he needs to get through before he can, start dealing some damage back. And actually doesn't have the Incineroar with him, only the Ogerpon and the Regidrago. So this could end up being a bit tricky, although Ogerpon can boost its special defenses.
Yeah, the lack of Incineroar here, I think, makes this kind of tough. We don't know the speed interactions between Regidrago and Iron Crown just yet, but there has been a tendency that we've seen recently for these Iron Crowns to be running pretty slow, which means that with this Trick Room up, there's a good chance that Javier is now just kind of out of luck in front of all these Expanding Forces. It looks like Helping Hand Expanding Force is going to be enough to just take a huge chunk out of everything on Javier's side here. Landorus, having just protected, can't reliably protect itself again this turn, even though that looks like it might be what Javier locks into. Rain does mean that Sandsear Storm can't miss, but that's not particularly relevant if Landorus is not allowed to actually click Sandsear Storm in the first place. Nicholas looking like he's got a very strong position now.
Yeah, and I think Javier did opt to go for the Terra Water here on that Ogre Pawn, which I think in a tough position like this is probably your best play to boost that special defense and be able to get through this Trick Room a little bit better. Yeah, it does go for the Terra here onto that Ogre Pawn. The Landorus could potentially, of course, get another Protect up here, but most likely it's just going to go down to another attack, and Trick Room is still up for 2 more turns afterwards. So yeah, special defense boost here from the Ogre Pawn does go up. Indeed, goes for a follow me here, try to protect this Iron Crown for a little bit longer from any single target attacks from the Ogre Pawn. Landorus actually doesn't try to go for another protect. This is going to go down to the Expanding Force, and despite the special defense boost, that is still a lot of damage onto that Ogre Pawn, as the Ivy Cudgel is going to go and hit this Indeedee, which does go down, but this is still a really nice position for Nicholas, in my opinion.
Yeah, we see that the Expanding Force enough for a 2-hit KO on this Ogre Pawn. And this may just come down to whether or not this Regidrago is slower or faster than Nicholas's Iron Crown. We haven't seen these speed interactions yet, as we mentioned, but we've also not seen the back 2 Pokemon for Nicholas, so potentially there's even more support coming in on Nicholas's side. And it's going to be this Ogre Pawn coming in now for Nicholas, which, in front of this Regidrago, I don't think is actually that helpful. Again, if Iron Crown is slower than Regidrago, then this looks very, very solid for Nicholas. But if this Regidrago is slower than Iron Crown, a Dragon Energy now is going to be a lot of damage into both of Nicholas's Pokemon, and there's not any Pokemon in the back now that can resist this Dragon-type move. So Javier gonna lock in a Dragon Energy and just hope that he is slower than this Iron Crown.
Yeah, the speed tiers are something that are going to be very interesting also for Javier to figure out, because Nicholas doesn't just have the Trick Room option, but also has the Tailwind option on his team, so, you know, that's always something you can't be too sure about. Ogre Pawn is going to go for a Spiky Shield here this turn. We already did see that the Iron Crown outsped it last turn, and the Iron Crown is going to go first. A lot of damage on that Regidrago, which just decides to go for that Dragon Energy, but is not even going to be able to knock out the Iron Crown after having taken so much damage, and it weakens the power of that move. And yeah, the Wood Hammer is just going to finish off that Regidrago. And now there is 1 more turn of Trick Room, I believe, so yeah, that's more than enough for Nicholas to finish up this game.
Yeah, very well played from Nicholas, identifying early on that this potential Trick Room mode could be scary for Javier. This does beg the question, does Javier play around that a bit more in Game 2? Do you maybe go for something like an Incineroar in the back to be able to stall out the Trick Room? Or alternatively, if you're expecting a Trick Room mode rather than a Tailwind option from Nicholas, could you just lead your Regidrago? Go like Regidrago Landorus next game and just click Dragon Energy Sandsear Storm.
Yeah, you definitely have to either prevent Trick Room from going up or just get through it better. Ogre Pawn actually gets a double protect here, but it's not going to matter too much because, like, inside of Trick Room, the Iron Crown is going to outspeed. Outside of Trick Room, the Ogre Pawn is going to outspeed. So really Javier maybe also just stalling for a few more turns here to figure out also what to do in Game 2.
Yeah, I imagine his thought process is probably very similar to ours at that point in the game. This game is wrapped up. He's not going to get a chance to see Nicholas's final Pokemon either, which is, in a situation like this, that's always something that you can play for, is just a little bit more information on your opponent. But as we mentioned, it looks like Nicholas's Ogerpon is going to be faster. No, actually, Javier's Ogerpon is the faster of the two here, so we are maybe going to see, with the Rain Boost, a KO on this Ogerpon, but maybe we do get to see the last Pokemon then, because Ogerpon's going to be able to hang on from this. Is it?
Without the Psychic turn, it is gonna hang out with just 9 HP. This actually does get to see Nicholas's last Pokemon. Yeah, maybe I saw the speed interaction earlier, because I don't think it's a speed tie. I'd be very surprised. But it is gonna be Tornadus here for Nicholas as his last Pokemon, which, yeah, should still be, unless it misses like every single Liquid Storm now.
You just
stick Tailwind, yeah. So yeah, still fine for Nicholas here, and yeah, that is Game 1 for for Nicolas. And yeah, we've talked about game 2 already. Unfortunately, there was a disconnect when these two players were playing game 2, and it was ruled in Javier's favor. So this next game that we're going to be going into is actually already going to be game 3.
Yeah, I think the same applies, though. Obviously, we don't get to see what our two players changed up for game 2, but game 3, again, it's going to be seeing if Javier does end up playing around that Trick Room option more. Maybe there's a Tailwind option mix-up from Nicholas's side as well. There's a lot of options with this team, I think, is the key. You've got the Trick Room mode, you've got the Tailwind mode. You can go for Regidrago for big damage, but if your opponent goes too hard into trying to deal with Regidrago, then Iron Crown's a big threat. So it's going to be interesting to see what mix-ups we see going into game 3 here. But Javier, I think, is going to be pretty keen to not just let Nicholas get that speed control again for free.
Yeah, like, I think most of what we said regarding game 2 still applies to this game 3 now. Of course, as you mentioned, we don't get to see what the players led in that game 2, which ended up being a disconnect. I say let's find out and head into game 3 and see what these players decide to lead with in this final match.
Yeah, it's all down to this game for these two players. Now, at 1-1, we see yet again Iron Crown Indeedee, but now we see Incineroar Golden Go as the lead from Javier. Very, very strong lead to try and shut down this Iron Crown right off the bat. It's not threatening that much damage into either of these two Pokemon with its Steel and Psychic type moves, unless it goes for the Terra Water Terra Blast that we see that it has got on its set. Especially with a Helping Hand boost, I think even the Assault Vest is not going to be enough to save Incineroar from a Helping Hand boosted, Quark Drive boosted, sorry, wrong time direction there. Future, past instead of future. But yeah, the Helping Hand boosted Terra Water, Terra Blast, probably still enough to get the Incin here, but that does give Golden Go potentially a turn to set up. So this lead a lot more favorable for Javier than the one we saw in game 1.
And apparently this was also the opening they had in game 2, and I really like this lead here by Javier. You know, these are two Pokemon, as you mentioned, that don't take a lot of damage from the Iron Crown unless there's a Terra Water, Terra Blast coming out, and that is a really good way to try and get through the Trick Room, or maybe, you know, just not make Nicholas want to set it up in the first place. The Iron Crown is going to go for that Terra Water. Once again, you know, worked just as fine in game 1, having that defensive Terra, and in this case it's also an offensive Terra. The Indeedee is going to go for a Helping Hand here, and I am curious now as to how much damage this Helping Hand boosted Terra Water is going to do. Goes into the Golden Go, actually. Not quite enough to knock it out, and it is going to get to set up that nasty plot. Interesting to see, though, that the Iron Crown is faster than the Golden Go. Incineroar going to go for a U-turn here, a decent amount of damage into a defensive Pokemon like Indeedee, and yeah, allows Javier to get in a switch in, and now he doesn't have to be afraid to bring in something that's maybe a little faster than this Iron Crown, since, you know, Trick Room has not been set up, and the Goldengo is at +2 special attack as well, so if you bring in a Tornadus now, you know, get that Tailwind going for this Goldengo, that could be scary.
I really like that play from Nicholas, though. You do have a somewhat obvious play of going for that Terra Blast into Incineroar, but Nicholas identifying Golden Go as the bigger threat here. And so now he's put this Golden Go in range of an expanding force from his Iron Crown. And with the Terra Water here, Make It Rain, even at +2 and with the Metal Coat, that's not going to be enough to take a KO on Iron Crown, obviously, barring potentially a critical hit. But even then, this Iron Crown, we've seen it's slow, so it's probably running a decent amount of bulk in how it's trained as well from Nicholas. So it looks like there's still a pretty safe play of just going for Follow Me and Expanding Force, but there is also the risk of maybe Golden Go protecting this turn. Tornado's just going for a Bleak Wind Storm for some free damage. And that might put the Iron Crown in range of that +2 Make It Rain. So a lot of calls to be made here by both players. But it does look like Javier is going to go on the offensive.
Yeah, Nicholas is going to do so as well. Just how much worse Nicholas's board position could have been if he did not go for the Terra Blast into the Goldengo in that last turn. And yeah, Make It Rain is going to come out here. Gonna take up the Indeedee. Gonna do about half to that Iron Crown. So still a decent amount of damage. And the Tailwind is up for Javier now, so he does have the speed control advantage. But Iron Crown is gonna go for that Expanding Force and take both of these Pokemon out here on Javier's side. So the speed control advantage is on Javier's side. Nicholas has lost about half HP on his Iron Crown, but does not have a Trick Room up, does not have a Tailwind up. That could still change, you know? Nicholas could very well also have that Tornadus in the back instead of a Tailwind of his own.
Yeah, the Ogerpon here looking pretty threatening now for Javier with the Terra Water on Iron Crown. So again, it's probably going to come down to what the final two Pokemon are for Nicholas. But I think good recognition there from Nicholas. Based on how much damage that Make It Ray did, it looks like a +2 Shadow Ball wouldn't have taken the KO on Iron Crown anyway, because that did just slightly over half, and Shadow Ball is a little bit weaker, but not resisted. So good recognition from Nicholas to see that it is probably safe there just to go for the Helping Hand. Not too worried about a Shadow Ball coming out, but if it is that Make It Rain like we saw there, then there's just so much more value in going for that Helping Hand to get the KO on Tornadus. So now Javier down to his last two Pokemon, but I think this Ogerpon, like we said, in a very strong position. Urshifu's threatening a U-turn potentially, but that does open you up to a Woodhammer from this Ogerpon. Tailwind is up, so Ogerpon is probably going to be the fastest thing on the field here. And it's in front of two water types. This Incineroar being protected potentially by the Follow Me as well means that it's not necessarily that safe to go for any water type attacks if you are Nicholas here. So we'll have to see how this plays out, but this is definitely not over.
I think this is a really interesting position where like the Ogerpon and the Urshifu, they have so many moves that they can go for, and it could be a little bit of a call-heavy turn. The Iron Crown is going to go for a Protect here, and there is Psychic Terrain on the field, so yeah, it does not have to worry about the
Woodhammer.
Did catch the Woodhammer there from the Ogerpon, as a knockup is going to knock off this Urshifu's Choice Scarf. Honestly, if you're Nicholas, maybe you don't even mind that much. I'm not sure. The U-turn here, though, decent amount of damage into this Ogerpon, which I think is the biggest threat here right now. The Incineroar going for the Terra Ghost means that, yeah, you get rid of the water weakness, but it also means you're not immune to something like Expanding Force anymore. Now, the Ogerpon on Nicholas's side coming in could redirect anything this Ogerpon wants to throw out at this Iron Crown, and now an Expanding Force is looking really, really nice, with Ogerpon not being able to Terra anymore, the Incineroar not being immune to Expanding Force, the Psychic type anymore. So yeah, Nicholas getting through this Tailwind really nicely and still in a great position to deal some damage.
Yeah, like I said, Nicholas positioning very well around this Tailwind now with the Follow Me on the field, keeping that keeping the Iron Crown safe from the Ogerpon and Incineroar, both clicking single target moves only here. And now with the Terastallization on Incineroar, there's no longer a resist on the field to Expanding Force, and the Ogerpon on Javier's side has taken enough damage that Nicholas's Expanding Force may be enough to get the KO from this range. We do see the Follow Me come out. It is going to be Flare Blitz. A bit of recoil coming down on the Incineroar here as well might end up being crucial, but with the Assault Vest, probably still going to be able to tank this incoming Expanding Force. Here it comes. How much damage is this going to do to the Incineroar? It might be able to take one. It won't be able to take two. It's a critical hit! Critical hit on the Expanding Force. Incineroar just goes down!
Oh, I'm gonna say that definitely mattered because I believe in the tankiness of Assault Vest Incineroar just that much. I'm gonna say that absolutely mattered. It would have not taken out the Incineroar otherwise. Yeah, now this is just a game-winning position here for Nicholas, with also still having the Urshifu in the back that can just go for close combat, something on this Ogerpon. It can always only attack one target. Yeah, no, that's just game.
Yeah, double protect coming out from the Ogerpon, or double Spiky Shield. Technically not working. Expanding Force now single target, 100% going to be enough to take the KO on that Ogerpon, and Nicholas is going to take Australia into a 2-1 lead, eking ahead in the closest of finals here. But what a set that was. Remember, that was game 3, so that was all to play for there. But I think long run, I don't think that critical hit really mattered, because there was only one more turn of Tailwind, which means that next turn, Nicholas has the option of just going for Protect and Spiky Shield. Obviously, no Urshifu on the field for Javier means that you can't hit through those Protects, safely stalling out the last turn of Tailwind, and then just Follow Me and Expanding Force wraps up the game there, because the Incineroar, we saw that it probably would have taken one with the Assault Vest, but as we saw from the critical hit there, it wouldn't have taken two. So I think it still would have been absolutely fine to just go for go for Spiky Shield Protect the next turn, and then follow me, take the hit from the Ogerpon, and then Expanding Force, get the KO on Incineroar. Ogerpon might survive, probably not, but even if it does, now it's only got single target attacks. It's not got Horn Leech to heal itself back up, and you've just got the option of going close combat and Expanding Force the next turn as well. So, I guess maybe you could have stalled out Psychic Terrain.
I mean, I think either way, as you said, with the Tailwind expiring then and the Urshifu still being in the back, it still is a tricky position, but I feel like it's still a position where if you maybe get some crazy call correctly, or maybe, you know, there could still be a misplay that comes out from Nicholas's side, that there might have still been a point where you could come back. But it is very tough, you know, but always interesting to talk about these possibilities.
I don't think so. I think in that situation, like we said, we got the double Spiky Shield or double Protect to get rid of the Tailwind, and then even with Psychic Terrain down, you still go Follow Me, Tachyon Cutter the Incineroar, and then Incineroar drops, it's a 2v1 versus Ogerpon, and Ogerpon, even if it takes out the opposing Ogerpon there, so if Nicholas's Ogerpon gets KO'd by Javier's Ogerpon, Javier has to click Wood Hammer to get any damage down on the 2 water types, because there's the Terra Water on Iron Crown as well, which means it's taking recall damage. And I think the recall damage is just enough that Expanding Force or Close Combat would be enough to take it out. So, unfortunate in the moment, but I think long term that didn't really matter that much. I think that was a very well played game from Nicholas, opting not to bring the Tornadus, which I think was very interesting there. Did lose him the speed control war, but he did an exceptionally good job of just getting around the opposing speed control anyway. That one call on the Protect on Iron Crown as a U-turned out with the Urshifu ended up being really critical as well. So very well played from Nicholas. A very close set, and I think he would have been disappointed if he'd ended up losing that set after a disconnecting game 2, but manages to pull it back, and that is a 2-1 lead for Australia, and we see 4 matches still left to play. So absolutely not over, but Australia ever so slightly ahead. Up next, we are going to have Samuel Pereira against Oliver Ramsey. So, a lot still to tune in for. Do not go anywhere. We are going to take a very short break, but we will be back very soon with our match number 4 in this very, very close World Cup finals.